Now we move to the very, very last part of this morning. Learning by doing is a good strategy, but today we want to learn by gaming. So we will try to play with you, have some fun, close the day in a very interactive way, although we are still a lot connected, so we cannot, interact directly. You should have on the screen the instruction for the live pool. Okay, now it's coming. So you will see you can go to the menti.com website and enter the code you have on the screen. Otherwise, you can directly use the QR code on the screen. Using that, we will start addressing some questions that the speaker have prepared for you. So I hope you will interact and enjoy our quiz game. So if you're ready, I can move to the first question. So please keep in mind the website and the code and the QR code. So the first question is from Jan Devos. So I ask Jan to connect and switch on the video. So what are the main differences between the environmental risk assessment of regulated products and ecological research? So you have maximum 3 keywords to enter in the system, in the quiz game. Up to you.
Everyone is lost. Yes.
It seems that everyone, okay, is coming. I can see the cloud forming.
No, that's wonderful.
That's
you
incredible.
really see important words popping up. So everyone understood that your environmental risk assessment is driven by policy and that it's there to support decision making. So it's not the same as an ecological study that you might be performing just to increase knowledge about science and other type of aspects. So yes, no, very good. I think most got the point. So that's very reassuring.
So Jan, I think you did a great job because they really catch the point. And we will collect all these frames and we'll put them on the website. So it's also nice to go back to them and see what the attendees put in or enter in the system. Okay.
No, we have a lot of participants, so very good.
Yeah, so at the moment, 66 entries. So very, very nice outcome. So Jan, I don't know if you have a few words to comment on that. It seems that everything is top now.
Yes, no, it's nice to see that the colleagues understood that we operate in a regulatory context and that the assessment is really supposed to help the decision makers to decide whether they want to approve something or not. And if they approve something, whether they want to limit the conditions of use with risk mitigation strategies, impose monitoring to follow up certain activities. So it's really framed by this legal context and also what we define as being acceptable risks and harm or not. And in that sense, you come to a decision that makes sense. And I think when you perform ecological research, you might just be generating data because you want to understand the system better. And it's mainly driven by curiosity-driven activities and generating knowledge and science. The two are not incompatible. So in certain cases, you can use an ecological study to feed your risk assessment. So the two can match, but not always because they differ in the context, the purpose, and also the type of questions that you put forward. So no, nothing to add on this one. So very good, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. So good job, guys. I think we can move to the next slide. And the next speaker, of course. So Domenica, if you are connected, Oh no, it's still Jan. Sorry, Jan, it's still your time. So, is the environmental risk assessment of genetically modified organisms conducted on a case-by-case basis? So this is definitely more direct question. So, guys, your time.
We still have people in doubt. No, I think this is a rather straightforward one. So I think it's clear that there is so much diversity within the GMOs. So we mentioned it in the presentation in terms of the organisms, the traits, the mode of actions of some of the intended traits, also the uses, and all that needs to be accounted for. So each time when you perform a risk assessment, you are really looking at the specific case that you have on the table. In some cases are similar, so you can extrapolate, but in most of the cases, you really need to focus on the specificities of the actual dossier that you have at hand for the assessment. So overall, and this is an internationally agreed concept, that the risk assessment of a GMO is being done on a case-by-case basis. And also this makes it complicated, because if you impose a rigid frame, you will also quickly understand that that frame will be challenged by all the scientific innovation and developments that take place, because GMOs are evolving. So we are always talking about old generation of GMOs, but nowadays we see that a lot of molecular tools, synthetic biological tools become available, and they enable you to create a new generation of GMOs that offer opportunities that were not feasible before. And in that sense, you have to adjust and refine your regulatory framework and also your risk assessment framework to make sure that it remains fit for purpose, so that you're able to address the challenges that a new generation of GMOs might pose. And also we had the question before with the genome edited ones. So in some cases, if you are just adding mutations or changing a mutation, some of the requirements that you have at the table today might not be applicable at all for these type of cases. So you have to really move forward with a flexible frame that enables you to address the specificity of the case you're assessing. And on top of that, if you talk about the environmental aspects, you need to account for the fact that the receiving environment, so where you might be releasing the GMO, might also differ. And Agnes mentioned it very nicely. Europe is very broad. You have several member states, but if you move from the north to the south, it's a very different receiving environment. And also those aspects might have an impact on how to perform the risk assessment. So a long story short, I mean, the answer was yes. And so many thanks for contributing to the poll and expressing your views through this channel. So very nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan. So now it's really the time for Domenica, and please show the next slide. And yeah, so now it's quite is a true-false question. So which of the following statement is true? Bees are exposed to pesticides via different route and source of exposure. Bees are exposed to pesticides only via consumption of contaminated nectar and pollen. And the last one, bees are exposed to pesticides on the treated fields. You were extremely clear, Domenica. Not the question to Domenica, I can hear you perfectly. I don't know what, but I'm not in the same room of the others.
I can also hear her.
Niente. Domenica will talk for you, okay? Okay, so it seems that Domenica has some issues with the microphone. So she was just commenting on the output of the poll, and it seems that you catch perfectly the meaning of her talk. So good for you, I think. Of course, your answer was the right one. So bees are exposed to pesticides via different routes. And yeah, we were happy that you catch the complexity of the story. So thank you very much. So we can move to the very last one. The very last one is from Federico Casolari. So Federico, if you can just... Yeah, great. So regarding the EU approach to food sustainability, again, vote, you need to vote. So the EU should contribute to the implementation of the UN SDGs also by setting new standards at global level, or it is fully implemented by means of binding instruments, or finally, member states could opt out and draft an independent national strategy if they disagree on the implementing measures adopted at supranational level.
It's interesting.
It's polarized.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Okay, good.
Now it's time, we are 99, 92, so I think that we are more or less arrived.
Okay, perfect. It's a very interesting result indeed, because let's say the right answer is the first one. So I see that the great majority of attendees have identified the right answer. The idea of the strategy is to, let's say, incorporate at EU level the Sustainable Development Goals approach of the United Nations. And as I told you, the EU may also contribute to elaborate universal standard thanks to its trade policy. It's not completely correct to say the member states are free to decide to opt out. I told you before, the member states may enjoy some discretionary powers. This is true, but once the EU decide to elaborate binding instruments, member states are obliged to implement them. And if member states fail to implement them, it's possible to open infringement procedures against states. So they cannot say, oh, sorry, I'm not interested this time, I will skip this act. This is not possible at all. Also because member states are involved in the lawmaking process. So they participate as co-legislator in the adoption of binding instruments. So it's not completely correct to say the states are completely free. While it could be to some extent correct to say that the strategy is implemented by binding instruments, but it's not fully implemented by binding instruments, meaning that also at EU level, some non-binding instruments have been elaborated or will be elaborated to implement the strategy, such as recommendations or resolutions, or plans or guidelines. So it's true that the EU may adopt binding instruments, but you have also to consider that in some cases, also the European Union may decide to be soft and to adopt a softer approach. But I mean, it's an interesting composition of answers. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you, Federico, as the last one. Thank you to all the speakers of this morning. We we are at the end of the morning out of this first day of summer school. So I was really pleased to chair this this first session. We will meet again tomorrow. So I hope you enjoy the program today. I hope you will enjoy the next 2 days of our program. I remind the people, those of you who are registered for the afternoon, that the session will start at 3 o'clock sharp. So have a nice day and see you tomorrow. Thank you again. And thank you to all the speakers for the tremendous efforts they put in this summer school. So thank you again.